So good morning everybody. Today is Saturday, July 4th, 2020. And I hope everyone is going to have a very good 4th of July weekend. So now we're going to continue on with our segments. And you all know by now that I use the cliffhanger approach. The topic of this discussion is going to be part 2 of my credit score. How in the world did I raise my credit score from a 640 to an 800? But before we get started, I just want to remind everybody to make sure you hit that notification button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because we are all on a journey together. We're all on a journey together. So I do want to spend just a little bit of time giving just a brief little overview of my Saturday, June 27 segment. You all are aware that I talked a little bit about some of the approaches that I've used, the snowball effect, in terms of how I raised my credit score from a 340 to a 640. I also talked about how I still use these techniques, the avalanche effect, and where with the avalanche effect you take a large amount of money and pay on the bill. The snowball effect, you pay a small amount of money on the bill but with higher frequency. I talked about how you have to use the strategy of redirecting your money, and what I mean by that is when you pay off a bill, you use that same money towards either putting extra into a retirement or savings or putting down on a house because you're not missing the money. I talked also about my debt to income ratio last segment. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today when I explain on how I raised my credit score from a 340 to an 800 within about a year. And also talked about how I treat my savings account like a bill. So with all that being said, I'm going to get ready to switch gears after I drink a little bit of coffee. We're actually getting ready to get into the fun part of my journey. I'm just keeping it simple. I'm just basing this off my experience. As you continue to listen to these segments, whatever information you can use it. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. I'm just sharing with the world on what worked for me, what is continuously working for me in terms of where I am now financially in my life. And trust me, when I retire in 3 years, I will not have to worry about working anymore for the rest of my life, and I will have money coming in to me from multiple streams of retirement and medical for the rest of my life. That is the position we all want to be in. I don't care how old you are right now. So I want to switch gears and remember how I talked about once I rose from the madness, and as a result how I don't use credit cards, because when I was in that madness, you know, I have multiple credit card debts. I have been in credit card debt since I got out of that madness in, I believe, from 2007 to 2012 it was mad. From 2012 when I switched gears to now, I do not have credit cards in my life. But from 2014 to 2015, the latter part from 2014 to 2015, during that time frame, I deliberately, and this was a risky move, I deliberately obtained a Visa credit card, and it was a reason for that, and requested to only have a $500 maximum limit. That was a risky move for me, but I had to do that as one of my unorthodox strategies to raise that credit score. Because remember, credit cards was part of my big problem. So from 2014 to 2015, I deliberately obtained a Visa credit card, and I called the Visa credit card people, and I told them I only want a $500 limit. So in order to utilize the credit card to raise my credit score with that $500 limit, we all know that if you have a balance, I believe you have to have that balance 20% below or whatever your maximum is. So if you can do that, it will have a positive impact on your credit score. So in knowing this, I took it even lower than that. I obtained that Visa card. I told them give me a maximum of credit limit of $500. And every 2 weeks for about a year, I will literally charge $1.75 on that credit card, and I will pay it off. So that left me with a available balance of $498.25 just sitting there untouched. So my credit card utilization rate was very low. I maintained a ridiculously low balance. Deliberately I did that. So I did that back and forth. From 2014 to 2015, repeatedly every 2 weeks, I would charge that $1.75. The rest of that money was untouched, and I continuously did that. Simultaneously, I was also monitoring my credit score with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And what I began to notice by using this risky strategy for me, what I began to notice was that 640 began to move to a 650. The 650 over time moved to a 658. I began to notice this, that now that 658 had moved to a 690. I'm watching this. And this with all three credit bureaus. Again, this was risky for me because I knew where I had arisen from out of that madness. This was risky and unorthodox for me because remember, I was in madness. And to knowing I had this credit card, it didn't matter that it had a $500 limit. It took discipline and skills to not touch that other $479 sitting there, and all I'm charging is a little over $1.70 something. So I did this, went back and forth for about 4 or 5 months of repeatedly doing this cycle. Visa, that maximum was $500. I would charge that $175 every 2 weeks. I would pay it off, and I began to continue to see it rise. So I'm going to tell you what happened. I applied for an additional, this is another risky move. I called Visa to ask them to raise that 500 to 1,000. And when I asked them to do that, the outcome, Visa sent me a letter, and this is no lie. Visa sent me a letter and said, we decline to raise your maximum from a 500 to 1,000, and it literally said this in the letter. Because you are carrying a ridiculously low balance, $1.75. It literally said ridiculously low. Ridiculously low. Because remember, they ain't making no money off me. I'm charging $1.75. Visa ain't making SHIT out of me. They ain't making no interest out of me. It probably costs them more money to print that $1.75 bill up on the piece of paper and mail it out to me. They were breaking even. They say, no, we ain't raising your maximum because you're running a ridiculously RIDICULOUSLY, and they had it in bold, low balance. They hated me, but that's okay because I knew the understanding of the credit card utilization debt to income ratio. My balance was way below 20%, like maybe 1%, not even that. I knew what I was doing. So I continued with this strategy plan of charging the $175 every 2 weeks, checking my credit score once a month, seeing that score rise and rise and rise. 700, 710, 715, 725 is rising. So I continued with the plan, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I ain't lying, Visa on their own accord, they sent me a letter indicating we have decided to raise your maximum from 500 to 1,000. I said, wait a minute. They about a month ago they declined. I didn't request to try to raise it again. So I paused. I read the letter because remember the other letter was in bold, ridiculously low. No, we declined. And I knew what they were trying to do. I knew what Visa was trying to do. They was hoping that I will become weak and charge up all that $1,000. Here, like I said, this was very risky, very unorthodox for me, but I knew that this strategy plan would rapidly raise my score. So I knew what they were trying to do. They wanted me to spin, and spin again and max out that $1,000 and get in debt. But because of my faith in God, let me tell you what I did with that increase. I continued to charge $1.75. I ain't lying. And so now that left me $998.25 available money just sitting there. It's ridiculously low, damn it again. So I did just the opposite. I played this every 2 weeks. I go charge the $1.75, pay it off. Now it's down. I remember a couple of times Visa would have to send me a bill of zero with a limit of $1,000. My. So with the increased amount now in the history of the low utilization rate and the low debt to income ratio rate, that tipped the scale and it raised my score from a 725 to an 800 by the latter of 2015. Damn sure did. So I started this process of manipulating that credit card and charging that $175 in 2014. By the latter part of 2015, now my credit score had jumped from a 640 to an 800, a 160 point increase. So what do you think I did? What do you think I did when I had achieved my goal of an 800 credit score? It took discipline. It took faith in God not to touch that other $998. Because what creditors look at, is if you got $998 sitting here and you ain't touching it, What that tells any stakeholder that you don't need the money, you don't have no desire for the money, that you can manage your money, and they can't figure out why you charging $1.75. So what do you think I did when I hit, right now, I recently checked my credit score. It's like 830 now. I don't know how high it's going to go. So once my credit score reached 800, what do you think I did? This calls for a cup of coffee before I answer that question. Remember, all of this is risky. I'm going to tell you what I did. I got that doggone Visa credit card, cut it up. I didn't just cut it up. I called Visa, told them to cancel it. I wrote them a letter, told them to cancel it, because I ain't need their behinds no more. That's right. And that was in 2015. I did that. Because I basically used Visa to achieve my goal of getting my credit score high as it can be. And still today is rising. It's beyond 800. I'm telling you, this is what I did. I don't care what you read about. I was driving yesterday running errands, and you know how you drive and you see these little signs on the side of the road. You can call this number to get your credit stuff fixed. I laughed when I saw that. Because if you really been listening to me, I have no doubt when them folks charge you $200, $300, or $400 to fix your credit stuff, they ain't gonna do what I did. That's right. And with the phenomenal results. This worked for me with all 3 credit bureaus. Again, I just want to say that my approach for me was risky, unorthodox. I will never do that again. I don't touch credit cards. I don't need credit cards. I know how to manage my money. I don't recommend for anybody to do this, but the only reason why I'm talking about it, because the mess worked. It worked. But if you try to do something like this, you better be ready. You better be ready, and you better be disciplined enough not to touch that whatever your limit is. And be ready to charge ridiculously low every 2 weeks, pay it off. I'm here to tell you, your score going to go up. But you got to be ready to do this. So since 2015, there are some steps I have taken to continue to remain credit card free. There are some steps, and that ties into holistic financial freedom. There are some steps that I continue to take to remain credit card free in my life. Because a credit card bill is another bill. Who want extra bill? Raise your hand if you want an extra bill. I don't. So since 2015, after I used Visa, yeah, I used them. They use us. After I used Visa, I have not had any kind of credit card in my life, and I will not, because I developed emergency funds, emergency account, savings account. I don't touch my retirement account. So I got multiple streams of money going into certain accounts, but it's critical to have an emergency account set aside so when any emergency happens, you can be able to deal with that financial emergency without borrowing money, without getting a personal loan, without credit card. Treat your savings account like a bill. So that is going to be my next cliffhanger for next Saturday, is what steps, what deliberate, and it's many of them, What steps have I done and continuously to do to remain credit card free? And it is deep. What steps since 2000, other steps since 2015 that I do on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis to keep them doggone credit cards out of my life? Because I'm here to tell you, as adults, we must teach our loved ones and our children the power of understanding you do not need credit cards. It's debt, 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 and debt. In college, I don't know why they market these young adults to get these credit cards in college. We as parents have got to retrain our young kids to understand, if you understand the power of manipulating your money, you don't need credit cards. There are so many people right now in this world who are drowning in credit card debt. They got so many credit card debts hitting them left and right, they don't know what to do. Full grown people in their 50s, their 60s, their 40s, their 30s, their 20s, 18 years old, 50, 60, 80, $100,000 in debt on credit card. And I ain't even talking about your real bills. I'm keeping this thing real for you. It can be avoided. Because unfortunately, the credit card companies, any stakeholder who issues a credit card, I don't care if it's a Walmart credit card, a Target credit card, a Visa, MasterCard, Discovery, American Express, they spend millions of dollars marketing to the unawake individual. Don't fall for it. Around the holidays, they slam you with pre-approved credit cards. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. We got to be wiser than this, because all of this ties into holistic financial freedom. I'm going to say it again. Removing credit card out of your life ties into holistic financial freedom, any shape, form, or fashion you look at it. We must break free of these credit cards. So that's one of the reasons I got to share with the audience some serious strategic planning, ongoing planning I do to remain credit card free. Because you remember, just like you're getting slammed with these marketing strategies they're using to get us to get these credit cards, they coming at me too. That's right. Plenty of times I went to my mailbox, pre-approved, pre-approved, pre-approved. So the next segment, I'm going to continue with this information about now sharing with the audience how in the world have I been able to maintain credit card free since 2015. That's right, since 2015. With a credit score like mine, 800 plus, trust me, they coming at me hard. Hard. They look at that, they pull my credit report, see my credits harder than I don't know what. Hard, I mean hard. Hard as H-E-L-L. So I got to be on top of my game. It don't just stop just because I've risen above my situation. I got to be on top of my game every hour, every day, every week to stay on top of my financial freedom in all areas of my life. So, as we continue and get down to the fun stuff, just to give you a preview of other cliffhangers I'm going to talk about later on in the future. One of my cliffhangers I'm going to talk about that is so important in building your financial freedom is I'm going to go more in depth and breadth in terms of talking about building other streams of income. You got to have, if you just got one income, that is not going to get you where you want to become financially. We got to have multiple streams of income. If you look at if you think about your grandparents and your great grandparents and people from way back in the day, them folks have multiple skills in terms of how they generate income. You know, your father, grandfather may have had that day job, and if you can recollect back in time, or your father, your grandfather, or your mother, your grandmother, then on the weekend they may be going somewhere else to make money, working on cars, cutting grass. You know, I'm from Florida, and I can clearly remember in Florida, you know, as a child, we kept money. You know, the mangoes and oranges and pecans grow wild in Florida. So I always remember we would go collect mangoes and sell them, collect pecans and sell. That was a multi-screen income. I did that all my life. So this so-called gig economy is not a new concept. Back in the day, we call it just making extra money. Use your skills. So that's going to be another one of my segments, cliffhanger, talking about building other streams of income. Another one of my segments I'm going to go a little bit more into is I'm going to share with the audience how one of my streams of income that I have is my local sales on Facebook Marketplace. What are some tips and what are some strategies I'm using to build my inventory to stay in budget? That's another stream of income. And I've been doing that since December 2019, and I just started doing that because I clean my house one day, and I'm downsizing, and I would realize that it's a whole lot of stuff I don't want, I don't need. I just had a experimentation posted on Facebook Marketplace, and about, you know, within 2 days I had made $400 or $500. So I say that to say, use your skills, use your talents. That's going to be a whole nother segment I'll go on in terms of talking about how I'm cultivating my Facebook Marketplace local sale. We gotta work smart versus hard. One of my segments I want to talk about as we move through this journey is the audience need to make sure that, yeah, this idea about the gig economy and folks out there doing a lot of stuff to make money through the gig economy, around this contracting or Uber Eats or Facebook Marketplace, local sale. I need for the audience to understand those other multiple streams of income that could either be considered a gig or a hobby. That's good, but let's not negate the fact that you still, because you gotta work smart and understand that what ties into holistic financial freedom, you still going to need a full-time bread and butter job where you got your benefits, your retirement, your medical, your sick leave, that package deal. Because society, they're glorifying the gig economy, but that gig may not be paying you medical, retirement, sick time, vacation. So you still got to have, because what ties into financial freedom, you gotta have some kind of insurance, medical, retirement. Because if you negate that, because they're trying to glorify, yeah, you're making all this money doing this gig, but do you also have that holistic financial piece to secure your retirement, to make sure you got medical in place? Because if not, a serious medical bill, or if you ain't set for retirement, can be a catalyst for financial destruction. So I'm going to go more into detail about looking at the advantages and disadvantages of the gig economy, in explaining how we cannot negate the fact that you still need to have a career, a full-time job somewhere where you got that package. I got a daughter who's about to be 27 years old. She has a career, her medical, her retirement, her benefits in the military, and on the flip side, she also do other things on the side to make extra money, a gig. She does Uber Eats. That's a gig. So if she's 26, almost 27 years old, can understand the importance of, you got to strike a balance. Just because you're young, don't mean you can't go to the hospital with a medical problem. So I'm gonna go that's a whole nother segment. I'm just giving the audience kind of an overview of the different directions I'm going to begin to take this holistic financial freedom in reference to my video channels. Because now we getting down into more informative information that anybody in this world can benefit from. Because what I see, just from what with my eyes, individuals are seem like they're putting more emphasis on the gig piece versus understanding you still also need a job with a benefit package to complement that gig. And that's what you call working smart, preparing yourself for holistic financial freedom. Because if you ain't doing that, you are going to set yourself up for failure if you ain't got certain types of benefits in place for when medical things happen or when you need to be off for sick time and still getting paid. So in summary, in reference to how I raised that credit score from a 640 to 800, I talked about utilization of the credit card, keeping the debt to income ratio low in order to increase that credit score. That was risky for me. Once that goal was achieved, I canceled that credit card. I cut that credit card up. Visa wasn't happy. Too bad. Like I said, all that was risky for me. I talked about the cliffhanger, the next segment that I'm going to talk about. I gave you a little bit of that cliffhanger approach. Is now I'm going to share with the audience my game plan in regards to how in the world I've been able to maintain credit card free since 2015. When I say credit cards, I'm talking about all of the major credit cards, store credit cards, Walmart, Target, all of them. Credit card free. So with that being said, I hope this information was helpful. It's getting down to the fun stuff. I'm looking forward to sharing more information as we move along. And just to remind the audience, you ain't got to buy anything since I'm talking about multiple streams of income. Go on Facebook Marketplace, put in Marie Holliday, Holliday. Everything you see on the Raleigh, North Carolina is what I have in terms of my inventory and what I'm doing for local sales, and it's fun. You know, if I make, some weeks I might not make anything. Some weeks I may make a couple of $100. One day I might make $65. One day I might not make zero. But the point is, whatever I make, that's money that I did not have before I made it. So with that being said, take another sip of my coffee. I hope you all enjoyed it. Simplify. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you again soon.